have more coming back than people think. I don't think people understand that a lot of the guys that aren't going to be back had more eligibility returning. I mean, we could have returned almost the entire starting 22 of the Rose Bowl. But we played so many guys the last few years. And next year in the draft, we won't have an all-time record of guys invited to the combine. But, Mark, I think it's entirely possible that in next year's draft, we'll have the first defensive tackle taken, Mason Graham. I think it's possible we'll have the first tight end taken, Colston Loveland. I think it's possible that I know we're going to have the first corner taken in Will Johnson. He might be the first defensive player taken in the draft, period. I think it's possible we'll have the first running back taken in Donovan Edwards if he has the kind of year that he can have, especially with his skill set for today's NFL. I mean, we're looking, and you throw Kenneth Grant in there, I think he's probably a first-rounder, a defensive tackle. So next year's draft class is the opposite of this year's, where there wasn't a lot of great talent at the top, but it was very deep. Next year, we may only have 8 or 9 guys drafted, which is still a lot, but we could have 4 or 5 first-round draft picks. There is still a lot of talent on this team. I looked at the overall depth on Saturday. I was way more impressed than I expected to be. We're kind of now in that mode of Michigan programs in the past where even if we're only recruiting into the teens, like we had the last few years, these guys are now 2 to 3 years into a strength and conditioning program at a high level, Mark. They look like men, and so we have a chance to be better this year than I thought. That's why we need a quarterback. If this were truly a year where, I think 8-4 is the ceiling, then I would throw Alex Orji in there and let him grow. Okay, but I think we could win it all. I think we could win the Big Ten again. I definitely think defensively, we can go through the position groups if you want. I think we'll be very good. I think defensively, this will be a top 3-4 defense in the country again. I saw Bill Connolly's projections. I think he has Ohio State and Michigan 1-2 on defense in the country. I think the offensive line, we're at the point now, Mark, of where it was for many years when you and I were growing up. We're going to have a top 4 or 5 offensive line in the Big Ten now pretty much every year. It's just a matter of, are they really good or are they special? 2021, they were special. 2022, they were special. Last year, I just thought they were really good. We actually didn't get special till our best lineman, Zach Zinter, got hurt, because that allowed us to actually now play guys at more natural positions. We were playing guards at tackles all year long. And you saw that when we got to Penn State, we couldn't block them on the edge at all. I thought the numbers we showed on offensive line were very good. And so when I look around, okay, this team, I think, is more prepared to defend its Big Ten championship than I thought a couple of months ago. So then you start looking at what do I see right now that's not Big Ten championship worthy? Well, kicker for sure. Okay, that we don't have. And when you play complementary football like we do, that's a huge point of emphasis for us. I think we'll absolutely go into the portal to get a kicker like we did with the Louisville kid last year who helped us beat you guys. He made every big kick in that game. I think we'll do that again. I don't see a kicker that I would be comfortable putting out there for a 45-yarder to win or ice a game in the fourth quarter. And when you're playing the schedule we are this year, that's a big thing. And then quarterback. And I actually think if we were playing the more backloaded schedule, I might still be more comfortable with letting Orji grow, but we're not, and we're going to play Texas week 2. Fresno State week 1 isn't, that's not a warm-up, man. That ain't Hawaii. Okay. We'll be favored by a couple of touchdowns. We'll probably win by that much, but that's one of the better group of 5 programs. By the time we get to October 1, we're going to play USC and Texas. So yeah, you don't want to lose 2 games. And then you have, I think with our schedule, we could probably go 9-3 and still be in the 12-team playoff. But if you've got 2 losses by the time we get to October, man, that margin for error is really low. So that's what has me concerned. Now, when I did the video right after the spring game, I kind of forgot about Jack Tuttle. So the reason why I think he's relevant here, even though he didn't play all spring, is to me, any transfer we would bring in has to at least be better than him. You see what I'm saying? Because in some respects, he kind of fits the mode of the transfer we'd bring in. We'd bring in a guy that missed all spring. We'd want to bring in a guy that's only a 1-year rental because that way it doesn't disrupt the quarterback room where a bunch of guys are transferring out. Okay. And that's kind of Tuttle. And plus he knows the program and he's been around for going on 2 years now. The thing that concerned me about Orji in the game is Davis Warren came back into the game and led a touchdown drive late and kind of punched Alex Orji in the mouth a little bit from a competition standpoint. And I don't think Orji responded very well. And then Davis Warren came back in the game and did it again. And so that kind of concerns me. Our program's not structured like yours. It's not a quarterback driven program. But Orji's not Joe Milton. That's a lazy take people are throwing out there. They're both black and recently played at Michigan. That's where the comparisons end. They're totally different players. Alex Orji's a way better athlete than Joe Milton ever was. Alex Orji was the number 1 athlete on our relative athletic scoring in our program last year. When we sent 19 guys to the combine, Alex Orji was the best athlete in the program last year. So he is certainly that this year. You're thinking more of a Terrell Pryor kind of a player. His skill set, if you want to compare him to Michigan quarterbacks, it's closer to Denard Robinson than Joe Milton. And so, he reminds me a lot of Terrell Pryor where he was at early in his career. But the problem is Orji's also in his 3rd year. And so, if he were where Terrell Pryor was as a freshman, he would have been a Terrell Pryor level recruit. But it's taken him 2 years of development to look like Terrell Pryor looked like as a freshman. And so I can see this being a year where 30 to 24 games go against us because of the quarterback position. And in that respects, I'm worried about a 2017 kind of a year where we waste a national championship defense. If you go back and look at how good we were on defense that year, a lot of guys that went on to play in the NFL still are playing in the NFL. I am concerned about wasting that kind of a defense because of where we're at quarterback. I want to believe Davis Warren can be a Cade McNamara-like player. He's been a spring game hero before. He played very well the whole game. I thought he made a statement, threw well under pressure. But at least with Cade, we had that Rutgers game in the COVID year. He had done something meaningful on a Saturday, and Davis Warren has not. So if this was more of a rebuilding year, then I would not be worried about the quarterback position. But because of how good I think this team is, I am concerned about it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. And Rob is wanting a Steve Mark debate. I don't think this is going to form into one of those. Not today. I don't believe so. It doesn't look like it unless we want to go historical, because this is my take. And I only take our viewership back a couple hours. We were doing our Ohio State live stream, and you can imagine what my Ohio State writers have to say about Michigan's chances coming up this year. It's like an 8-4 ceiling. I stuck up for Michigan because I think Vegas is right there at 9.5. And after what I saw in the spring game, I was impressed with the continued physicality and just the nature of the culture being advanced, cultivated, and it continuing. The continuity is exceptional, and the coaching staff strategy, the approach has all been well orchestrated with intent on how to continue what has been built.
I agree. I mean, I would urge people, go watch last year's spring game and this one back to back. From the weather, everything. It looks exactly the same. Last year, a fourth string running back who wasn't going to play in the fall ran for over 100 yards, Benjamin Hall. This year, a fourth string running back who's not going to play in the fall, Taviar Dunlap basically did it. The one difference, though, is you had J.J. McCarthy wearing the white quarterback jersey. That's the difference, okay? And so, I mean, I think you look at last year, there was real concern. They had a starting corner opposite Will Johnson. I think we've got 2 guys better than what we had coming out of spring last year in Jair Hill and the big Ohio kid that I can't remember. Waller is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So this team, I knew that the top line players would be good with who, those guys that they got to stay. I was concerned about the depth given the caliber of schedule we're playing. Our depth is really good. Again, the player development is there. The reestablishment of Michigan as a culture and a program that we saw from Bo to Mo to Lloyd that's where it's back there again. Doesn't mean that Sharon Moore couldn't be terrible at this and wreck it in 2 or 3 years, and we'll find that out. But we're not debating the 2026 season, Mark, are we? We're debating this season. And this season and this team, you are correct. And it was way more impressive than what I expected it to be. If we would have done this a month ago, I would have been where your Bucknet writers are. Okay. But seeing now with my own eyes, physically, this looks like a Big Ten championship contender. So now I'm a little more, now I am way more concerned about the quarterback position than I would have been a month ago.
I made the analysis very early last season at some point when Jalen Milroe turned the corner, and then we knew what Alex Orji was probably, what his skill set looked like, what he looked like. I made that comparison. It seems like a lot of people are making that comparison now. Jalen Milroe, there's a difference between just having the arm strength, like it appears Alex Orji does, to just throw the ball 70 yards, versus being a good deep ball thrower, which we don't know that he is. Jalen Milroe showed us last year. You don't want him making decisions, but man, if that dude is striking down that 9 seam on the post, he can sling it like few can. So are there comparisons there that you think are viable?
I think this is an important point that you're raising, because I think a lot of fans think guy runs fast, throws far, can be a great quarterback. It depends on the system you're in. Okay. And so the Alabama system was able to take advantage of the fact that Jalen Milroe was an exceptional athlete running the ball, and then had excellent touch to throw down the field when the play breaks down and the defense is now in a scramble drill because he's outside the pocket. All right. But the problem with that is that's not our offense, and that's not our offensive scheme. And so the offensive scheme at Michigan is not a high risk, high reward system. It's just not. It's a system of complementary football and not making mistakes. And if you go back to Denard Robinson, you would see a pattern in Denard's career where he would be the September Heisman winner, like all 4 years he was there. And then we get further in the Big Ten football, and Big Ten defensive coordinators have more film to look at, and they're like, we're just going to sit back. And we're going to make you prove that you can complete those 8 to 15 yard completions. Otherwise, we're not going to play man-to-man. We're not going to bunch up on the line of scrimmage, let you find a crease and house us, have our defensive backs with their backs turned to you 30 yards down the field so you get outside the pocket and turn a scramble drill into a 40-yard run. We're not going to let you do that, all right? And what you would often see throughout Denard's career is, as the season went on and the book was out that this is not a guy that can consistently complete that gimme pass, then you would see his rushing yardage, the ground would shrink beneath his feet. I think there's a real concern with that with Alex Orji. I thought he missed way too many easy throws. His best throw is on a gotta have it on 4th and 5. He threw it a perfect laser into a tight window to move the chains. But our system is designed to not get to 4th and 5 very often, Mark. All right. Our system is designed that you can convert on 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4. Okay. And I mean, he just missed a lot of throws. And with his mobility, the amount of play actions and waggles and sprint out throws off of play action, guys are going to be wide open in the flats, Mark. I mean, Donovan Edwards could have 1,000 yards receiving just catching balls in the flat from this guy. But I got to see that he can complete those. I don't really care if he can complete a missile. It's not a video game. I don't really care if he can complete a missile 60 yards downfield like Jalen Milroe. We beat that guy in the playoffs. Mark, why? Because Alabama didn't trust him to make the gimme throws. And we knew that. So we're like, well, we're not going to bunch up. We're not going to let you just get out of the pocket. All right. We're going to collapse the pocket on you and see if you can step up in the pocket and deliver that throw down the field. That's not who he was last year. That's why we beat them. And the only reason the game was as close as it was is we made a lot of mistakes offensively in that game. Otherwise, that game was exactly the perfect framework of a Michigan win. And so in this same case, a quarterback may do that once if he's great twice a game. And that'll be all the highlights that fans see. But games are really won by, can you continue to make the consistent available play? Our offense schemes tight ends open basically every single play. And I just didn't see a guy that I saw a guy who can just take what the defense can give him. Because given how good we'll be defensively, given how good the running game will be again, I think we could win the Big Ten with another Cade McNamara-like quarterback. But I got to see that he's able to do that. I mean, what I saw was a guy that struggled to make the gimme throws. And the problem with that, when you're as gifted of a runner as he is, those gimme throws are going to be there all the time because they have to account for you running the football. Then if you can't make those gimme throws, the reverse also becomes true market and impacts your ability to be a capable running threat, because now the defense doesn't respect that you're going to find Colston Loveland 10 yards up the seam because the linebacker got caught spying on you. You see what I'm saying? That's the killer stuff. And I just didn't see that on Saturday.
So do you possibly default to, without further breaking down Alex Orji, because what I saw was the first two throws of the game, I thought, okay, there was like one at the feet of the fullback, Bredson, coming out of the backfield. Then there was great separation by the wide receiver going to the sideline, and he threw it way into coverage, way behind him. And in a different situation, that would have been picked. He did get into the flow and threw some good balls at times, but you got to have a guy that's not going to throw the ball in harm's way a couple times per game. So you brought up Tuttle. I'll bring back Warren because, as you mentioned, threw well under pressure. Very first pass completion of the day on like a 3rd and medium. He's like backpedaling with a rusher coming right at his face, and he throws it not across his body, but a difficult throw to the tight end on a rope. Now, maybe if you want to play true Michigan football to a Big Ten championship, maybe he's your lower grade John Navarre, Chad Henne type to get you to the promised land.
Maybe. What'll be interesting with Tuttle is also a very good runner. Now, he's not an Alex Orji level of athlete. He's not a JJ McCarthy level of athlete. I think people have no clue what kind of an athlete JJ is. We're talking about a legitimate 4.5 guy. But Tuttle's a much better athlete than Davis Warren, and Tuttle can take 3rd and 6 and turn that into a first down with his legs. And so I don't know how much of a factor it is for him not being there all spring, given the guy's in his 7th year. I think he has kind of the same shoulder injury that JJ had 2 years ago, but he opted for surgery instead of rehab, so he's totally out. Okay. I don't know, not being there in the spring, how much that'll matter to him, given his experience overall and in the system. It doesn't help his case, though. I do think the performance of Alex Orji helps his case. Now, here's what Orji has going for him. Of all the quarterbacks we have on the roster, he is the one guy that is special at something, and that we know is special at something. And that can be very tantalizing to a coaching staff to say, we can work with that, right? And again, if we were starting like the last 2 years, I don't even think we're having this conversation. I think we'd be like, yeah, the whole analysis would be, some throws in the dirt, but man, he can move that body. And I guess we'll have that preseason and work on that. That's what we'd be saying that right now, but we don't have a preseason now. We're playing Texas week 2, and we're playing USC 2 weeks after that. So, we don't have that. And that's why this has got to be somebody, given how good the defense will be, how good the running game will be. The first few weeks of the year, we need a quarterback that will not lose us those games. Doesn't have to win them, but he can't lose them.